About a month ago, I did a Reddit post where a man had backed up his truck after a fight, deliberately put all of his girlfriend's plants on the bed of the truck, took all of her plants and dumped them in the pond. That Reddit got a lot of outrage. It was posted all over the place. Anyways, this woman came to my post and put this comment on here. She says, there's a Washington Post article about the phenomenon of men killing women's plants, and the comment section is absolutely loaded with emotionals. So I went and found the Washington Post article, and here pictured is what triggered this woman to create this post. At least she started it up on Twitter. This is her fig tree that was gutted and basically died because of these trimmers, these tree trimmers. Karen Atay, Atayas. Please forgive me, Karen. I'm just going to call her Karen from this point on. All right, so let's get into the article. It says, there's that saying, it is better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Nearly 3 years ago, one of my favorite trees in the world, my parents' 22-year-old fig tree, was butchered by some clueless landscaping warriors looking to make a quick buck. She says this is her favorite tree in the world. She is livid and she needed to walk this off. Months later, as I tearfully predicted, the tree was so injured that a large part of it died, and she was putting all of this on Twitter. She says, many of y'all remember my distressing tweet thread last year about the trimmers that came and massacred our tree. I wish it had a happier ending. She said, what was once the beautiful wood of a fig tree is now being burrowed out by ants. It's like looking into the decaying corpse of my old friend. I wish I could go after the scamming landscapers who did this, but they aren't even a registered company. She says, I wrote about it at the time, utterly enraged at the landscapers and my father who allowed them to mutilate the tree. So angry that I took a pair of scissors and threatened to execute his favorite pathos right in front of him to give him a taste of how I felt. After that column was published, I was flooded with tweets and stories from women whose spouses, boyfriends, fathers, and male neighbors had destroyed their favorite shrubs, flowers, herbs, even plants that had been handed down from long gone relatives. I was reminded of the fig tree fiasco a few days ago when my sister informed me that the same landscapers had come back and asked whether there was any pruning to do. My sister told me she pointed to the tall, spindly fig shrub growing from the tree's dead trunk stumps. Apparently, the men looked embarrassed, said sorry, and drove away. They're lucky I wasn't there. I would have threatened to price the tires off their trucks if they ever came back again. But that inspired me to put the call back on Twitter, known as X, for women to share their stories. So she says on Twitter, I would still love to compile stories of women who had to deal with men destroying their gardens, favorite flowers, or trees and vines that have had a long history. Hell hath no fury like a woman whose plants have been wrecked by mindless men. The responses I got were, well, horrifying. If you're a plant lover, read at your own risk. Tree triggers ahead. This woman says, I had a boyfriend that destroyed a gigantic and beautiful orchid. I'm talking 3, 4 feet tall, at least 2 feet wide, because he was jealous that one of our mutual friends, a man, gave it to me as a trade for my work with his business. This woman says, I lovingly recreated a medieval style herbal lawn in our backyard. Husband, now former, had a service mow the lawn while I was out of town. They alerted him to the weeds in the lawn and offered to remove them. One application of weed killer and 6 years of work was gone. This person says, my husband had weeded so many of my perennials. He mowed over an azalea bush. He planted a mum where my peonies were and killed that. I could go on and on. So now I take him with me to the nursery and I tell him the price of everything I am buying that he killed. And Karen was like, at what point is this intentional? This woman says, I was excited for my blue poppy to bloom, and I would run downstairs into the garden first thing when it was getting close. One morning, I bounded downstairs and found my ex husband standing in the kitchen with my bloomed poppy cut in his hand, smiling. Look at what I did for you, love. This person says, early in their marriage, my parents and toddler me spent some time living with my mom's grandparents. Her grandparents had grapevines they were very proud of, and you wouldn't know my stoned father wound up killing them in an attempt to prune. My mom was and still is pissed. And then Pat Pending said, my dad did that. Took the lawnmower out front, mowed down all of my beautiful pansies, stopped, and then came in and yelled at me to finish mowing the lawn. I was 13 and had three older brothers who never did any yard work. I can't look at pansies without remembering. This woman says, my mom always complained about how my father would mow and kill a lot of her flowers. I always hoped it was by accident when she says she thought it was on purpose. Yikes. Didn't I know this was a thing? This person says, a friend of mine took a job in another town at the start of her divorce. Before she could dig up her flower bulbs collected over the years, he completely covered the bulbs with rocks, baking them in the southwest sun. He knew what they meant to her: intentional, vindictive, spiteful. And this man, Dan, says, my father paved their entire backyard with cement because he didn't want my mother puttering in her garden. And someone was like, for real? And he was like, yes, they've gotten older and she has dementia, but she loved to tend the plants in the garden, grew vegetables and flowers, gave her something to do all day. My dad decided the garden was dirty, and against objections, he had it torn up and everything cemented. Karen says there are a lot more stories in the original thread, and in them, an unhealthy mix of incompetence and outright malice, bordering on abuse. I don't know whether the destruction of plants and gardens is commonly considered a sign of toxic or even abusive characteristics in relationships, but maybe it should be. Plenty of women pointed out that the men who had destroyed their plants were now their exes. I'm not saying all women are earth goddesses blessed with innate horticultural talents, but of course, not all men are out there unaliving every tree and shrub they can get their hands on. I do know men who have gorgeous gardens and are quite good with indoor plants. From what I could find, there haven't been many studies on the gendered aspects of American lawn and garden care or yard work, and why men sometimes kill plants they shouldn't. But for me growing up, lawn care was male work, and no surprise, manicured lawns, lawn grass remains a symbol of male material success. As Crystal DaCosta wrote in Scientific American in 2017, the state of a homeowner's lawn is important in relation to their status within the community and the status of their community at large. Lawns connect neighbors and neighborhoods. They're viewed as an indicator of socioeconomic character, which translate into property and resale values. Lawns are indicative of success. They are a physical manifestation of the American dream of homeownership. The common thread in the responses I heard from women had nothing to do with grass, but with flowers, herbs, trees, and vines being ruined by men who either refused to listen to women's instructions or who had tipped over into rage. I have yet to hear of a woman poisoning a man's lawn out of negligence or spite, but if it's happened, I'm all ears. So, what's up with these herbicidal men? Now, for some of the comments. This person says, here's a better question. Why does the Post keep paying you? Your poorly written columns become increasingly tedious and completely ridiculous. This person says, I really don't enjoy seeing sexist articles in WAPO, even in opinion pieces. This is why I say this article is sexist. If it were reworded in a stereotype to be about why women do something that the male author dislikes, it would also be sexist. Such an article shouldn't make it past the editor's desk if it were published there. So basically, yeah, these men are mad because this is sexy. This is a thing, right? Ranks right up there with toilet seats, up, down, closed, toilet paper, roll orientation, gender specific. See, they are turning it into ridiculous. But taking out people's plants is harmful. He says lots of folks get their passive aggressive supremacies at the expense of others. Reasonable op ed material? I think not. I did not go explore the thread that they were talking about, but we have had these conversations on my page. And taking, when these men destroy something that really brings women joy, it is not accidental, it is on purpose. And women need to be looking out for these signs. Jump in the comments with your stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. So this Reddit thread was archived in the Reddit wiki subreddit. I don't know if it got deleted or what, but this man says, I destroyed my girlfriend's plants in a fit of rage, and I think she may leave me. You know, I've done a nothing reason she left, and what men have done to women's pets and plants is atrocious because women started talking about what they have done to their plants and their pets, and it was like heartbreaking that somebody would do this type of thing. But let's get into this one. He says, okay, I'm a longtime Reddit observer, but first time poster. So I apologize if I do anything wrong. I've been in a relationship with the girl of my dreams for almost 7 years. She is the light of my life. We met in college and it was love at first sight for me. She is the most loving, goal-minded, smart, creative, gentle person I know. Our relationship has always been pretty peaceful. Even when we fight, it's not so much fighting as it's just talking out our frustrations and maybe some tears shed. I've had a rough couple of months. I got laid off, rejected from my top choice of grad school, had to dump a huge chunk of our savings into a new car when mine took a crap. Looking back, I think all of this contributed to what happened that night. I, I truly feel like I blacked out. I've never had an episode like this in my life. Last week, we were arguing about some financial decisions that we were trying to come to an agreement on, like she always does when an agreement has drained her for the day. She sighed, rubbed her eyes, stood up, kissed my cheek, and said she was making some tea. We have tea every night, and asked if I wanted some before bed. I always know this is a sign that she can't productively contribute to the argument anymore right now. She needs to refocus and recharge. For whatever reason, I didn't accept it that night. I asked her to sit down so we could continue. I was sick of arguing and wanted to push through until it was over. She responded that she would not be contributing for the rest of the night, and that I am welcome to come to bed whenever I'm ready. She put my tea on the table in front of me and took hers to the bedroom. Something in me snapped. Instead of having tea, I started drinking. I drank maybe once or twice a year. All we had in the house was a bottle of nasty brandy. She has this room in the back of our house that is mostly windows. She has put a lot of time and money into it. It's her plant room. She put new floors and custom shelves that she built herself to hold plants. My girlfriend's plant room has always been her special place. Her career is pretty demanding and does a lot of speaking with important people. And at the end of the day, she is often looking to escape somewhere. She has a bookshelf to keep her favorite books out there and all these cool looking plants. One of them got passed down from like her great grandma or someone, and a lot of them are from other countries. I think she names them, or maybe that's the actual names of the plants. I don't know. Sometimes I go out there to spend time with her, and she would always be wiping the leaves and gushing about the way the light was coming in or how excited she was about a new plant that she was expecting in the mail. Her plant room was probably her most favorite space. The walls literally looked green because she had so many. I don't know. I couldn't really keep up. I just like to be near her. Sometimes I'd open the blinds from the house to room just to watch her in her rocking chair reading around her plants. Anyway, so I snapped. I literally do not know. I backed my truck up and put every plant in the back, and I took them to the pond a few blocks from our house and dumped them in, still drinking. Amazing I didn't crash my new truck. I passed out on the couch. The next morning, I got up not remembering a lot until I saw her through the open blinds sitting in the empty room. I immediately ran out there. My stomach hurt thinking about what I had done. Her eyes were so wide and full of tears. She kept taking these shaky breaths and looking around like she was seeing it for the first time over and over. I told her, I'm sorry. She asked what happened. I told her. She asked, my great grandma's Ivy too? I said, yes. She did this sob thing. It was really quiet. She's never been a loud crier. Ever since then, my best friend is gone. She goes to work and comes home and sits in the empty room and looks out the window. She looks sad every night. I miss her. I miss her making tea for us before bed. I'm not saying I miss the tea. I'm capable of that myself. I just miss all of the little ways she made my life complete. She was the most full of life I've ever seen a person. Sometimes she just grabbed me as I'm walking by and get up on her tiptoes and kiss me like it was the first time. My actions are killing me. She drifts past me like a ghost when she's near. She doesn't kiss me, doesn't return my affection. I want to start rebuilding her room, but I don't even know where to start. Please, Reddit, help me. If there's any hope for me to get my best friend and hopefully my future wife back, I need help. So I've talked about the fact that I have read Lundy Bancroft's Why Does He Do That? And there is a part in there when they talk about when these men supposedly black out. When they black out and they tear up things and they do things, are they only doing things to the other person's stuff? If they're only doing things that destroy somebody else's stuff and not their own, they haven't truly blacked out. They haven't truly lost control because they are in control enough to not destroy their own things. So if they blacked out to the point that they just couldn't remember anything and they just lost control to where they just destroyed everything, did that include any of his own things? His video games, his sneakers, his car, anything that he values? Did he mess anything up, or was it all the partner stuff, the woman stuff? If nothing of his was touched, he was calculating and he did it on purpose. Do not take any of this BS that he blacked out and lost control. Some of the comments. This reminds me of a case study from Lundy Bancroft's book, Why Does He Do That? Many years ago, I was interviewing a woman named Sheila by telephone. She was describing the rages that my client, Michael, would periodically have. He just goes absolutely berserk, and you never know when he goes off like that. He'll just start grabbing whatever is around and throwing it. He heaves stuff everywhere, against the walls, on the floor. It's just a mess. And he smashes stuff, important things sometimes. Then it's like the storm just passes, he calms down, and he leaves for a while. Later, he seems kind of ashamed of himself. I asked Sheila two questions. First was, when things got broken, were they Michael's or hers, or things that belonged to both of them? She left a considerable silence while she thought. Then she said, "You know what? I'm amazed that I've never thought about this, but he only breaks my stuff. I can't think of one thing he smashed that belonged to him." Next, I asked her, "Who cleans up the mess?" She answered, "She does." I commented, "See, Michael's behavior isn't nearly as berserk as it looks. And if he really felt so remorseful, he'd help clean up." OP didn't lose control. He made a calculated decision to hurt his girlfriend by destroying something she loves. He is a textbook abuser. And that was particularly what I was thinking about from the book. Okay, this person says, "Dude, you have to take a serious look at yourself. You didn't boil over and simply raise your voice, slam a door, or break a single object. You spent seemingly upwards of an hour maliciously dismantling and destroying a special place your girlfriend has spent years cultivating. Over what? Your girlfriend politely excusing herself from an argument that she knew wasn't productive. If I were her, and I don't know how I could, if I were her, I don't know how I could look at you the same way. Your behavior is so vindictive and out of nowhere that it's scary. Honestly, I have a hard time believing what you say about something like this never happening before in this relationship. You need to seek counseling for this behavior." Towards the bottom, the OP gives updates on his relationship. It says, "I appreciate everyone's comments, even though most of them were along the lines of F you, a-hole. Firstly, I want to say I don't disagree with you. At your suggestion, therapy is my first priority tomorrow. Unfortunately, most of you have accurately predicted the outcome of my relationship, which is that it's no longer existent. I will still be doing everything I can to make it right for her. I have deleted the post at the request of my ex-girlfriend. Again, thanks for everyone's time." On his account, he says, "I also want to clarify, my account is about a month and a half old because I wanted to post a little bit ago for car advice. If you remember in my post having to get a new car, but I ended up just buying a new truck. Trust me, I wish these events were fake. Thanks, everyone." Okay, so there's that. So I just want everybody to take some time, grab that book, Why Does He Do That by Lundy Bancroft, and then really, really sit and think about some of the things that might come across as abusive. And are these people really, really losing control? Think on that, because destroying something that somebody else loves is deeply hurtful. and meticulous and calculating. Y'all jump in. Let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.